You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Melissa's destructive winds reaching Jamaica on tonight's live tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for October 27th. So Melissa, obviously the big feature right now, needless to say. Recon are in the storm right now. We got info from their first pass before we got to do this update, and they're still holding on to what would be equivalent to 145 mile per hour winds sustained on the ground, and a pressure estimate probably around the low 930s. There is the storm, obviously just about to reach Jamaica, and the hurricane warnings were extended earlier on this afternoon to some of the Cuban provinces, pretty much all the ones that were under the hurricane watch, and tropical storm warnings extended to the province of Las Tunas. In the Eastern Pacific, Sonia is struggling actually, 45 mile per hour winds and not looking so good on satellite imagery at this point. So it may be on borrowed time as it continues to saunter out towards the west-northwest over the open Eastern Pacific. In the Westpac, we have two areas of interest still with low chances right now. The one on the left fumbling even further down to 10%, but the one to the east there that could be going near Guam later on in the week, 30% chance now with other models starting to hop aboard. In the North Indian Ocean, Tropical Storm 3B has formed, and we're expecting the Indian Meteorological Department to name it fairly soon. It will be heading towards the coast of eastern India and is likely to make landfall there, probably in the Andhra Pradesh region, as a tropical storm. Other system off the west coast there, back up to 40%. What's left of Chenj is nearing the coast of Africa, but very little is actually left of that former tropical storm, but still a really good innings from that system. And the other area of interest that's out over the central Indian Ocean is also not dying completely. It is still traceable, but still a very low chance of development. The South Pacific, not too much going on here either, so a quiet affair now in the southern hemisphere, which is usually the case at this time of year, but so far we're already up to 4 storms. Well, there's Melissa, and look how impressive it looks on satellite imagery. It's actually had a Category 5 satellite appearance for most of today, but it's the recon readings that matter, the actual empirical evidence of the storm not being a Category 5, even though satellite estimates have it. So as mentioned, 145 mile per hour winds is the estimate. It's currently just 132 kilometers south of Portland Point, 170 from Kingston, 183 from Santa Cruz, 228 from Montego Bay. It is likely to continue a little bit further west now, and it looks like western Cuba is going to be the area that's going to be more affected by the storm now. National Hurricane Center still forecasting a Category 5 peak and possibly near Category 5 at landfall on Tuesday morning or possibly into the early afternoon, depending on timing. And of course, wide-ranging impacts for that whole region, catastrophic impacts possible with severe storm surge, heavy rain and wind, flooding and landslides. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're always in touch with the latest tropical cyclone updates, as well as following us on social media. And you can also join our Discord server for tropical weather chat at any time on discord.gg/force13. Welcome to Force 13 Live. I still haven't fixed that abrupt changeover there from our little pre-record at the start to our actual live coverage, but here is what the storm is appearing like right now on the latest satellite imagery. Still moving very slowly towards the west, and from what we gathered from that recon earlier, just a slight little change on the National Hurricane Center's 8 p.m. intermediate advisory, just knocking down the pressure 1 more millibar to 933. That is based on a drop sond earlier of 937 millibars with, I think, over a 40 knot wind. So that's why they dropped it down just that little bit further, but really very similar to what we've just put out there as well. Well, the western side of the eye wall was actually flagging a little bit there as we look at that imagery. This is rapid scan from GOES 19, and it is actually formed back in there again. We'll ask our team for comment in a second about what may have been happening throughout the course of today, whether there's been structural changes, and certainly big questions and curiosity around the size of the eye, which we'll also be getting onto in a short while. But the main takeaway right now is that the storm is crawling a little bit further towards the west. As you can see, if you line it up to Jamaica there, you can see the outline of the island. It is pretty much halfway along, which means that eastern Jamaica aren't out of the woods by any means, but it does appear at this point as though the storm looks like it's going to make landfall further towards the western side of the island. Still a reasonable chance that the whole island will receive hurricane-force winds, and they can be very dangerous, as well as very high rainfall amounts. Still, the main bulk of the storm is yet to arrive. And it won't be tonight either, because it is still moving westwards. It's going to be tomorrow when it really starts to move in a little bit closer. And then that gradual but sharp turn that we're expecting to see should come to fruition. And then northeastward movement through the island and onto Cuba. Well, it certainly looks like it's going to remain very strong by the time it makes landfall. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio. Oh, my camera's not there tonight for some reason. Well, not that that matters very much, but I'll probably appear in a second. Oh, there I am. Hello to everyone. And we're also joined by a few people with us right now. We've got Christian, Ethan, and JJ. Let's talk to Ethan first. What have your observations been about that storm's structural integrity through the course of today?
It's been very interesting. Obviously, we had that bit of a plateau in its identification phase. It seems to be resuming somewhat right now. The pressure is dropping, but the winds, at least from the initial recon pass we've got, indicate that the winds have not come up just yet. So maybe whenever the winds decide, hey, let's start catching up down to the pressure, maybe we'll see a dramatic increase in the winds, maybe. Or recon maybe haven't sampled the strongest part of the storm.
Yeah, that is certainly a possibility. They've not been into the northeast quad yet, which is traditionally the strongest, or even northern, considering that the storm's moving west due west. It could end up being due north that has the strongest winds, or somewhere around there.
Absolutely.
What's your take on what's been going on that western side of the eye wall recently? Recon in that pass just now got slightly weaker winds on that side. Looks like it's had a gap there that it's just filled in those later frames. Was it a dry air slot or something else?
Probably a little bit of wind shear. There is probably still a little bit of wind shear in the area.
And has it had an eye wall replacement cycle today?
It's quite likely that it has. It probably underwent a merger eyewall replacement cycle.
Okay.
That's very probable what happened with the storm. And I would say that we've still yet to realize the ultimate beacon entity of the storm still.
I agree.
It's still coming in the future.
Eye temperature's pretty good. I imagine it's in the high teens at least right now. I've not checked the actual number, but looking really good on satellite imagery over the course of today, Christian. The satellite estimates have been into the Category 5 range for a while, but it's not always the full picture when we get that recon data. What's your take on the storm?
Yes, well, looks can be deceiving. Obviously, like you said, we've had satellite appearance giving that Category 5 look, so to speak, but we've had recon in the storm pretty much all day, and, well, recon is the more trustworthy source here. And what have they been giving off readings off?
Well, that's it. Well, earlier on for the, would it have been the 5 p.m. update or maybe earlier, when they upped it to 145, that wasn't based on the recon flight level winds. That was actually based on dropson data. that convinced them to up it just that little bit to 145, and now it's supported by the recon flight itself, I would say. So
Isn't drops on data from recon though?
yes, but obviously two slightly different ways of conducting the measurements. Obviously, but drops on, of course, in the eye as well recently, getting pressure now into the lower 930s, so certainly the deepest that this storm has ever been, and strongest, and just looking so impressive on this satellite imagery, and like it seems like the core of the storm is really detaching from its bands, Ethan. Have you noticed that there on the eastern side?
Yes, it's a very, very healthy storm as it sounds right now.
Blimey. We've also got JJ with us here as well. Welcome aboard. What are your thoughts on Melissa? Very powerful storm.
Honestly, not really caught off guard. We knew what Melissa was going to do. It's continued to intensify throughout the day today. Not really at the rate that I thought. I thought the storm would have been a lot stronger by now. I mean, the conditions are there for it, and they're going to continue to be there for it. Those sea surface temperatures, they're through the roof,
Yeah.
especially this time of year. And there's not really going to be anything stopping the storm except for itself if it gets in its own way. We saw it went through eyeball replacement cycle earlier in the day, and it's rebounded quite well. And I won't be surprised to see the storm reaching its peak intensity tonight or even as far as tomorrow night and sustaining it all its way through.
That is certainly on the cards, and the National Hurricane Center predicting that by the time it makes landfall in Jamaica, it will still be a strong Category 4 potentially. So, extremely powerful storm. It's been on that forecast for a good while, and now those models that really wanted the storm to move further towards the west are having their way. Is there still a chance for a more eastward solution, guys, or is it definitely here going to be western Jamaica?
Still, obviously, the chance. The NHC cone, keep that in mind. That is the forecasted, or that is the cone of uncertainty, is where the center of the storm could go. And that does not, the impacts will extend far outside that cone, believe me, believe it or not. So you can see still quite a fair bit of that cone does not hit Jamaica on both sides.
A little bit, but obviously look at that wind field on that right-hand side compared to its current position, showing you really that that wind field is larger than probably the day 3 or even day 4 point of that cone. The cone's been zoomed out a little bit as well over the last few days because obviously the storm is now expected to track further over the 5-day period as it shoots out up towards Bermuda. So might trick people a little bit into thinking that the cone has shrunk when it is still actually quite a large cone.
Yeah, looking at that cone there, like from day 4 to day 5, it looks like it really picks up speed, which is just quite the opposite to what the storm has been doing lately.
Oh yeah. What is its movement right now? Maybe about 3 miles per hour at this point?
What does the NHC
Yeah.
have?
The NHC has it at west at 5 miles an hour.
5, okay. So 5 miles per hour moving towards the west at this point. And again, there's some more current imagery of the storm wrapping itself up once again. I'd be very intrigued to see if we can get an actual eye temperature on that one right now. I'm just going to check to see what we've got. And if you're familiar with the 4-kilometer RAM imagery, it can be a bit surprising when you zoom out a bit. This storm is pretty small. Just checking this info right now. I don't know if anyone has anything they want to tell us in the meantime. Looks like eye temperature is about 20 degrees Celsius. So a very healthy eye in this storm, and I think the NHC remarked earlier stadium effect appearance. In fact, I may still have some earlier images of how the storm was looking. Have I got rid of all that already? Well, I was prepared at one point, and now it appears I'm not. Let me go and get that again, because I think that we ought to see it, how impressive it looked on visible earlier on today. But that will take just a second here. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're live tonight, feel free to send us a message, Force 13 all in text, and that will get through to us, hopefully. And probably going to be a lot of talking about impacts tonight as well, with potentially a massive storm surge on this. And of course the extremely heavy rainfall, which I believe is still projected to get towards 1,000 millimeters.
How much is that in inches and feet?
40 inches.
Bloody wow, okay. Yeah, that's quite a lot of rain.
It certainly is, especially for these areas. Okay, sorry about the little bit of quiet there. I just wanted to bring to you some imagery from earlier today. Here's some visible showing just how the storm was looking. Very, very impressive, and just mesmerizing in a way, watching it swirl around. If I can get the thing working properly. There's some later frames from this evening when it was probably looking its best there on visible, before of course we lost the light. There it went, and now it is in the nighttime abyss from a visible perspective. Just watched through that loop once again from this morning. Looking a lot more ragged it was, with a lot more of a cloud filled eye. Then it really blew up convection around the eye wall, and throughout the day pinwheeling, and in my opinion clearing out even further as the day progressed. So certainly from a visual point of view, oh yeah, especially towards the end there, the storm really improving its eye. Quite mesmerizing to watch there. But now we're into nighttime hours, so we're stuck, even though it's not necessarily a bad thing, with the infrared imagery, which is still showing this storm very ferocious right now. Interesting to see what's just happened there in those latest frames, though. Maybe a slight southwestward jog, and a little bit of a change with that western eye wall filling in just for a second there. Question, what are the models showing? Well, they're becoming increasingly irrelevant, because the models are all obviously pointing to the same place. I guess the big question is the intensity. I know what some people will want to talk about, how some particular models earlier today were calling for this storm to become very strong just before landfall, like 185 miles per hour from the HAFS B,
What?
I think it was, or the HFSA, one of the two. Yes, I'm afraid so. But I would still say that that is unlikely. I think it's got a decent chance of reaching Category 5 status, of course, with the way it's going right now. Obviously, it's got the appearance about it. Just doesn't have those wins from recon or any other observation. Hurricane Altony Bronze says, any impact to the east coast of the United States? Well, it is moving a bit more westward than expected by some models, at least, but still no impacts expected for the US East Coast. And some other interesting comments in play right there. And is Melissa a Category 5? No. It looks like one, but it is not one. It is still, at this point, a 145 mile per hour Category 4, and for those who aren't au fait with the categories, Category 5 begins at 160. Recon Noah 2, that's the plane that we're watching right now. They're moving in for another pass right now, actually, as well. So northeastern side here, or maybe even northeast, but sort of northeast. They're coming in for a pass, and in about 10 minutes or less, about 7 or 8 minutes, I think, we should have some new data, which may be very interesting because theoretically the strongest part of the storm. I had a little prediction before this stream that I thought that we would see some Category 5 flight level winds during this flight. So we'll see whether that comes to fruition or not. We really hope not, obviously. We don't want the storm to be stronger than what it already is, but realistically, a distinct possibility. And let's just check in on one of the viewpoints right now in Kingston, and that is the view looking over there. Quite hard to see very much on this particular viewpoint, but that's the Kingston Harbour view, which is obviously very dark right now. Some emergency lights over there, but still looking relatively quiet. Certainly not heavy rainfall, otherwise we probably wouldn't be able to see that far, visibility and all that. So it's looking relatively calm. Maybe a little bit of wind actually on, just trying to look at the trees down there. It's going to be getting breezy, I'm sure, in that area at this point, but I would imagine still probably not quite the tropical storm force winds, gusts even. But I would just we can actually check in with the weather conditions at the airport.
Breaking news. Cyclone Mantha has been named in the Bay of Bengal.
Oh, joy of joys. We have another storm active, everyone, and it's heading for the eastern coast of India. A tropical storm that will be affecting the coast of Andhra Pradesh in the next couple of days. I don't know if we'll have time to do updates on that, but that is the news right now. A new name storm over there. Okay, just some news from Kingston, Norman Manley International Airport. Maximum wind gust so far today has been 46 miles per hour. And right now, I think they are actually getting 39 mile per hour winds. It says wind speed. I assume that's sustained, otherwise it would say gust. So I think they may be getting 39 mile an hour sustained winds, but don't quote me on that just yet. But that's what I'm getting right now, Ethan. Are you surprised by that?
No, I'm not surprised by that at all.
Very close to this camera, actually. 39. So that's tropical storm force winds just about near here.
That's Kingston, or is that Montego Bay?
Kingston.
I'm not surprised. The core and the overall CDO of the storm is incredibly small. So, you know, those tropical storm force winds, we were originally questioning how far they would extend from the center. And now that that storm has got this organization and that core going to it, it's fairly small. So tropical storm force winds aren't really going to be extending too far out from the center. I think they are mainly on the eastern side of the circulation as it stands right now. So they're obviously going to be mainly on the eastern side. But I imagine with time, we'll see the western side get more of a foothold in terms of the wind diameter of things.
And just for our information right now as well, Sangster International Airport, that's Montego Bay, currently at 12 mile per hour winds. Their maximum gust today so far was 41 miles per hour, and they're reporting thin scattered clouds, so still pretty quiet in Montego Bay. So that's the latest observations, or a couple of observations there on the ground that we're able to relay. So if you've just joined us, Hurricane Melissa has intensified a little bit more today, and it may have been confusing for a lot of people, considering that this morning it was already looking like it was about to become a Category 5 on satellite, and then recon went into the storm and struggled to even find Category 4 force winds, and then they got a little bit more, and by the afternoon hours they were starting to get winds indicating around 145 mile per hour winds, and that's where we're still at right now, although the pressure has dropped substantially over the course of today too. It was in the mid 940s earlier, and now we're
50.
down. Was that today?
Yeah, today.
Gosh, so 12 hours ago it was still around 950, and now it's down to at least 934, which is what's on our graphic. NHC running 933, and we're going to get another recon pass shortly to see if we're still getting significant intensification, and that will really tell us along the lines of millibars per hour.
It is possibly coming in towards the end of the stream now.
No, it's going to be sooner. We should be getting info on this pass in the next 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm just looking at it now. Yep.
So that would be about a 1 hour and 10-minute difference between the two passes. So we'll be able to get an idea of whether the pressure's gone down a little bit further or how much in that 1 hour and 10 minutes, and see where we go from there. The Hurricane Lee says, is Melissa expected to make landfall as a Category 5? It cannot be fully ruled out. If it's still stalling by the time it makes landfall, then I think it can be ruled out. But if it is starting to pick up the pace by the time it's getting there, after stalling further out at sea, reaching Category 5 status, it will probably hold on to Category 5 just a little bit longer before it moves inland. Thanks very much for your support, Nicholas Janssen. Thank you very much there. Hope you're enjoying the stream as much as it could possibly be enjoyed during such a serious situation. Is the eye wall wobble due to the clouds wrapping around the eye? It's very easy to, I suppose, put a microscope on what's been going on in just those last few frames that we're looking at. Looks like the general trend, though, bit of a southwesterly jog there, which is probably more likely than not. Really looking interesting with that structure. I'm not sure what to make of it now. Western side, Ethan, I still think is a little bit frail.
Probably due to a little bit of wind shear.
Yeah, wind shear has not fully given up on this storm. We've just got.
Like I said, 1 to 2 streams ago, there's studies ongoing that look into, maybe storms need, maybe a big, powerful hurricane such as Melissa. Maybe they need a little bit of wind shear in the area to help them out.
Update on recon. I know they're not quite there yet, but the winds they're getting are super low, 70 to 75 knots, and they're nearly in the eye. And that's northeast quad.
What?
I don't see it getting that much higher. They'll probably have a bit more of a spike than that, but
I can tell you that last barb that they got, that's not in the eye wall yet.
Okay, we'll just hold judgment on that one then. But yeah, I see. Yeah, they're not quite in there yet because the eye has moved west a little bit further since the last pass. So. Hold off on that for those who are getting a little bit excited about it being a weak northeast eye wall. I think we're going to get quite a bit more than that, but we're going to have to wait another 10 minutes for the data to come out. So more comments here right now. Do we think that Cuba will be devastated? Well, I mean, that's a very hypothetical question, or subjective question. There's obviously going to be significant impacts from this storm. That is a given. And, well, I guess I refer you to the key messages, because the key messages have some pretty strong language. Here are the key messages from the National Hurricane Center. Jamaica, seek shelter now. Damaging winds and heavy rainfall tonight and Monday will cause catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding and numerous landslides before potentially devastating winds arrive Monday night and Tuesday morning. Extensive infrastructural damage, long-duration power and communication outages, and isolation of communities are expected. Life-threatening storm surge and damaging waves expected along portions of the southern coast Monday night and Tuesday morning. So to that question there, make of what you will of that kind of messaging there from the NHC. And still for Haiti and the Dominican Republic, strong wording as well. Catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding and landslides expected through midweek. In Haiti, extensive infrastructural damage and isolation of communities is likely, although winds have temporarily decreased in the Tiburon Peninsula. They are likely to increase again across much of western Haiti on Tuesday. And eastern Cuba, life-threatening storm surge expected across portions of the southern coast of eastern Cuba late Tuesday and Tuesday night, damaging winds and heavy rainfall with life-threatening and potentially catastrophic flash flooding and landslides also expected beginning on Monday. Preparations should be rushed to completion. Don't forget hurricane warning now in effect in eastern Cuba since the 5 p.m. update. And just scrolling down, southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, monitor Melissa closely. Increasing risk of a significant storm surge, damaging winds and heavy rainfall Tuesday and Wednesday. Watches will likely be required early tomorrow morning. So that's all of the key messages wording there. It sounds pretty stark to me. Let's go back and take a look at some more imagery right now. Back to the Zaire enhancement. Don't forget you can see all of this satellite imagery on the Force 13 website, and we have our automated stream running throughout the life of this storm, which will be keeping you up to date with how the storm is looking, and that is running the whole time. After we finish this commentary stream bulletin, we will redirect you over to that automated stream. A few more questions then. I'm seeing hypothetical banded around a bit, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be talking about that. And whether it's going to be retired, we don't really get into that business before the storms even hit. And it's not going to hit the USA on the East Coast, so I'm really not going to talk about that. Yuhani9 reckons that it looks like Hurricane Dennis. Any thoughts on that? It's got better cloud tops than Dennis.
True.
So I think it looks better than Dennis, and I reckon that could have been a borderline Cat 5, to be honest. Where in Jamaica will it make landfall? That, again, is still a big question mark right now. Let me see if I can help, though, by bringing on a proper close-up of the... yeah, I'm not actually sure how to do this. No, let's go back to just the, yes, this imagery, which is a little bit less off-putting because you can actually see Jamaica behind it. So obviously the storm is in this position at this point. You may remember all those GFS model runs from earlier first saying, oh, it's going to hit Haiti this way, and then it ended up being it's going to go straight through all that water area and through the channels there and pass to the northeast. Then the GFS finally admitted that it was going to hit Jamaica, stall for a little bit here, and then go back northeastwards. Well, now the GFS has sort of gone the other way, and obviously the storm is here at this point already, but the GFS now reckons it's going to keep going this way, and something along those lines. Of course, plenty of other models are out there as well. The HWRF, I know it's a slightly outdated model now, but it really is calling for the storm to actually miss the west coast of Jamaica barely and head up that way. And then you've got other models. The general consensus is that landfall is going to be somewhere in this area. Still, that could change, and if we were to overlay the National Hurricane Center forecast cone, I should have done this earlier. Oh, there it is. That's the National Hurricane Center forecast cone, still calling for landfall, potential landfall, or the storm to pass anywhere within this area. Interestingly, a tiny part of eastern Cuba is now outside, eastern Jamaica is outside of the cone. Such is the case on how that cone has been shifting westwards, but you can see the potential landfall location, and it's squarely within that range of where we're looking at with all the models. Where that actually corresponds to on the map, well, that is pretty much it's quite sparse around there actually, but very close to Treasure Beach. They would be just about on the western side. Alligator Pond would be in the strongest part of the eye wall. So it obviously there are people in these areas, but they will be relatively smaller populations that would be getting the biggest impacts from the storm if it does make landfall in that area, rather than the big populations that live in this area and obviously Montego Bay up here. If the storm did pass right through there, that would be a less bad scenario than what it potentially could be, but still not good at all if it's a strong Category 4 by the time it's hitting. Now, the NHC did remark, I don't know if that's still the case actually, but I'm sure earlier they had the storm around here and down to a low-end Cat 4, but we're still talking very strong. We're still talking stronger than Gilbert for Jamaica, for the landfall, and large areas around the landfall zone receiving worse conditions, if not worse impacts than what Gilbert delivered in 1988, and still widely regarded as pretty much the worst storm in Jamaica's history. Certainly one of. Obviously,
128 knot flat level, 931.7 extrapolated.
there you go. So they got some more data there. 128. So that doesn't beat what we saw earlier, but it's close. And that extrapolated reading just a tiny bit lower. That was an extrapolated reading, right?
931, yes, it was.
Just a tad bit lower than the previous pass. I've not got the info on my screen yet, but that's obviously coming from Ethan there. So it sounds like the storm is at least holding, if not still just slightly strengthening as it continues this movement westwards. So do we think it will peak higher than 185 to 190 miles per hour? I think that would be crazy, to be honest.
It's not going to go
Hard
that
down.
high in the first
Hard
place.
down.
Yeah. And there's some odd questions in there that I'm not going to be going into. So we'll continue to watch the storm here progressing very slowly westwards. Very dangerous storm for the whole of the island of Jamaica. And not forgetting the overall population of over 2 million. Severe impacts expected over wide areas. Doesn't particularly matter where the storm makes landfall when we're looking at rainfall, when we're looking at landslides, and for a fair amount of the coastline there, the storm surge.
When was the last iPass?
It's just happened.
Oh, it's not showing up on this website. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think the data's a little bit slow in some places, but I've still not seen that data yet. But according to Ethan there, 128 knots flight level. The maximum they've got so far in this flight, I think, was 129 in that first pass. And thoughts on the peak intensity of the storm? Well, that is still a tough question right now. The storm looks beastly. I think it is likely to get to Category 5 status, obviously. NHC are forecasting that. Looking much better as well in those latest frames. Bursts of convection into the minus 80s. So I think we could see some further intensification underway. Whether it gets beyond the 160 mark, I would not be confident enough to predict that.
Here's a question for you. What do you think the exact pressure this thing's gonna peak at?
Yeah, that is a good question.
I can't get my words out correctly tonight.
It's alright. That is a good question, and I'm not fully sure. Probably my estimate would be around 920 at this point.
Really?
But
I think it's going to get lower.
Could go lower.
Definitely.
Could go lower.
Especially with the way it's been dropping today.
Yeah, but...
Obviously it plateaued earlier, but...
Maybe plateauing now, I'm not sure yet, but... Hold on, let's just see if we've got some more data here. So the extrapolated 931, we've not got an eye drops on yet, but we'll have it soon.
I mean, I'm seeing some people in chat saying 919, saying 911. I probably a bit on the extreme side if I had to guess. I want to go like 920. But yeah.
Well, it could if it really goes for it. Yeah, it could. Obviously, some models are saying that.
It's not going to be 875.
No
way.
Good Lord. I know some models have been saying that, and some people have been very keen to get on board with that. But let's take a look at some of those possibly said models now, and take a look at what some of the Hurricane models have been saying this evening. We may as well. So let's look first of all at what the HWRF was saying. 934 millibars it initializes at 21Z. So not bad actually. Continuing westwards, and there it is. Back to a landfall again. Actually weakens a little before the landfall though, and it's a high-end Cat 3 landfall. I think it could still be stronger than that. And then on, of course, to Cuba. Continuing onwards there. Bermuda, just on the edge of tropical storm force winds. HMON. Was initializing at 931 and 147 miles an hour winds, so very close to what it is. 923 millibar peak. A pretty straightforward turn towards the coast, no real angle to it. It's the lazy turn, and the landfall there is probably a category 4 still, low 930s, and then still strong, probably a category 3 there for Cuba, much weaker now but larger. Tropical storm force winds for Bermuda.
Right, looking at extrapolated pressure as well with recon, I'm seeing is that 931.7?
Yeah, that's what we had before.
Yeah, that's what we had.
HAFSA. Now it's the HAFS models which people fawn over because they show the worst scenarios. Starting with 943 millibars there and 145 mile an hour winds, so not too far from the truth. There it is peaking, at least the first peak, at 920 millibars, 175 miles per hour, nearly 180 actually. And a second peak even stronger, 905 now. That's the lowest I've seen that one in a while. 905 and nearly 185 mile per hour winds, and then turning northeastwards, weakening just a slight bit, but still 175 miles per hour at landfall Tuesday morning. I ain't sure about that, but a very, very intense storm landfall if that does happen. But this is one of the most aggressive models, so big caution question mark there. We'll see. Not out of the realms of possibility though. Into Cuba there, still as a probably Cat 4 or at least high-end Cat 3, much larger on the other side. Actually still a major hurricane on that frame there, and huge eye. and it slams into Bermuda on the HAFS-A as well. Cat 2, high-end Cat 2 for Bermuda. And then goodness knows where it goes after that. HAFS-B is sometimes even worse than the A run. So this is going to be fun.
Just around the same.
Yep.
Just around the same.
Initializes the storm at 939 millibars and 155 mile per hour winds. Bear that in mind. Strengthening eventually, not straight away, which is interesting. And then pressure's low, 913, but the winds aren't that crazy in comparison to the pressure. Oh, yes, it is actually at the end, 154 knots, so 180 miles an hour there. Landfall. But look at the landfall locations on all of these. They're all rounding in on quite similar places here.
So where is that, like, exactly?
Well, it's central to western Jamaica.
Central to western, so...
There's a few localities in that area. I believe that is St. Elizabeth Parish. And off it goes, continuing off towards the northeast. Still powerful there. Category 3, landfall again. Off it goes. They're all showing pretty similar scenarios. Bermuda's still a big question mark, though. Again, Category 2 landfall over the island. That is a big deal.
That's a slam.
And then what? I'll probably wait for you to be finished with your model segment before I ask this question.
And then the Euro, which we're only really going to look for the track because the intensity is not very accurate. But looking at the track solution there, they've actually taken it a little bit further west now, actually. Not too far from Savannah Lamar for the potential landfall. So that would be pretty interesting. Certainly one of the more westward solutions. And then a little bit further west into Cuba, and then overall further west just a little bit. In fact, there it is, Bermuda on the eastern side of the storm, one of the only models to produce that, and then wherever it goes after that. Obviously, a little later on, we're going to show you the full GFS suite for all storms that are out there and all potential storms in the world over the next 16 days. Christian?
Yes, I was going to ask, what is AF307 up to right now? Are they leaving?
AF307?
Yeah, mission number 16, according to this website.
Oh, they're long gone.
They're long gone?
Yeah,
okay.
they left before we even did the stream tonight.
Okay, I don't know why they're still listed on this website then. So all eyes are on Noah 2 at the minute.
Yeah, they're the only plane in the storm. They went through the max wind band. Oh, this is interesting, Ethan. 156 knots at the 917 millibar level, which would be around just over 400 meters. Just over 1,000, about 1,500 feet.
Next wind band, but not quite an eye drop.
So that's very interesting. Certainly the highest I've seen by some distance so far. So really strong winds a little bit further up there in that northeastern quadrant. So it's starting to get interesting by the sounds of it there. If it kept up and those winds got down, could be looking at a Category 5 in the early hours of the morning. Tim has joined us right now. Sorry.
Yeah, and I said 967 at 124 knots.
Yeah. So obviously it's nowhere near the centre, but they're getting 124 knot winds as it splashed down onto the surface. Tim, thanks for joining us. You're showing us some radar right now, and I'm sure you've got plenty of thoughts about what Melissa is up to at this juncture. We can't hear you, though.
Is he having mic troubles? He did just get a new microphone.
I don't know. But let's take a look at what he's showing us, at least. The radar. And cut in whenever
radar,
we can hear you, Tim. But at the minute, we can't. Really looking quite impressive as we watch that progression.
Okay,
there.
I should now.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, still getting the settings figured out on this new microphone. But yeah, this is the Jamaica radar, and Obviously, Melissa, a complete beast most of today. Obviously, as you guys have been alluding to, satellite appearance suggesting this could be Category 5 on appearance, but thankfully this is why we have Recon. Recon has been debunking that Category 5 look with the 145-mile-an-hour winds. Recon has been getting 129 knot flight level winds on the last couple missions, which you could argue could be pushing this towards the 150, but I think 145 by the NHC has been reasonable. And the Jamaica radar showing those deeper reds on the northern side, really indicating to me that the strongest winds are definitely on that northern side. Obviously, they just made that northeast pass. So we'll have to see how this looks. But yeah, definitely more of a southwesterly track the last 24 hours, as you guys been alluding to. Again, the big question mark with this track is when is it going to turn north? And a lot of that actually is going to come down to some weather out of the U.S. There is a front, according to the GFS, that's going to bring some rainy conditions, possible severe weather to the southern part of the U.S., Texas, Louisiana, and that is going to be the linchpin along with the high pressure that we discussed yesterday over Mexico. Those two factors are going to determine if and when this gets starting pulled north. Obviously, the later that front gets delayed and the later that high pressure settles in, the more west this is going to go, which puts more of Montego Bay under threat.
I dropped SON 936 millibars at 24 knots, so that is actually pretty similar to what we've been talking about so far. So it looks like once again the pressure drop has stalled, just like the storm appears to be. But from what we saw on that northeastern, the maximum wind band northeastern quad drop sond, it sounds like there's some really strong winds at the higher levels, and I think the storm may end up pushing ahead with that wind speed, even if the pressure doesn't in the next few hours.
So what would 936, 24 knots, what would that extrapolate?
It's still around the same as what it is, 933 or 34 here. So a little bit surprised, actually. I thought it might have been a bit lower.
Same here.
So interesting, and just to point out as well, they went down through the southwestern side, a little bit weaker there as well, just over 110 knots on the southwest side. So clearly a weaker part of the eye wall in that direction. Looking at satellite, the western side is looking a little bit frayed. And as it moved in on the western side earlier, that was also relatively, compared to the other sides, weak part with about 115 knot winds compared to the 130-ish knot winds that we're getting on the east and the northeast side. So slight imbalance. Whether the structure issues, I'm not sure. But obviously, Tim, you're looking at radar there. It's hard to tell even on that whether there's just...
This has been really one of the tougher systems to really figure out. You can see right around the 20 to 21Z timeframe on the radar where we did kind of have a concentric eye wall structure, one eye wall inside the other, which is why a lot of our team had mentioned throughout the day that
you
this
see it
had
a lot
gone
more
through a
earlier,
merger.
At the start of that loop, and then it ends.
Yeah. And that's why you've been hearing our team talk about this going through a merger eye wall replacement cycle, which is a very unusual phenomenon. I mean, obviously, hurricanes, they will peel off their inner eye wall for a bigger outer eye wall, which will amplify the wind field. But Melissa's not done a typical eye wall replacement cycle. This is where the inner and outer wall have kind of merged, which actually stalls its intensification phase. So that's why we may be seeing the pressure stalling now.
Yeah.
It hasn't. It's just finishing that up, and we may see this ramp
Yep.
up a little bit more during the overnight hours.
Yeah, but as we've just been looking on the models, though, even the strong ones, it factored in that and actually has the storm just holding here for a few hours before it embarks on that next phase again. So, you know, people in the comments suggesting what wind speed is off the table. Well, I don't know. Looking at those models, I don't think you can rule out 175 miles per hour, but I would never forecast that.
I think 175 is a bit too high.
But not impossible, and certainly
No,
backed
not
up by,
impossible.
I think, 3 of those models. So
I mean, if
that's
this thing
quite
gets to
something.
if this thing gets to 165, then that's probably be about what I'd expect. But then by that point, 175 is still on the table, pretty much.
Yeah. Visual appearance still looking pretty stellar with the storm right now. Let's go back to this imagery, which is obviously one of my favorites, the Zare imagery. Certainly, I feel it gives you a good grasp of where we're up to and how strong this storm is looking. The eye temperature is roughly around 20 degrees Celsius. For a time there were minus 80 degree cloud tops wrapping round. Just losing it a little bit again there, but still looking quite good. Real question is what the eye does next there. Looking slightly ragged on those latest frames, but I think that's just the cloud cover. So I think overall it's looking good moving forward for Melissa, unfortunately for everyone else.
No. I just also want to clarify as well to those people who are new here. It's all based on knot to mile an hour conversion. So if you hear us say something like 160, 165, 175, 170 does not exist because it's to do with the conversions pretty much. I'm sure Nathan can give you a bit more of a rundown on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going a little bit too far into how all that stuff is, but
Well, just for those who are new here.
I'll try and
You
relay.
never know.
I tend to relay in miles per hour usually internationally, but obviously a lot of these areas use kilometers per hour as well. So just in case you were wondering, 145 mile an hour winds right now. That is around 232 kilometers per hour, which is quite fast.
Yes.
I'll be honest, Nathan. Looking at Melissa structurally, if you would have told me that this was with any other part of the season, structurally, this very much reminds me of Dorian. Except Dorian obviously was in September, but structurally, it's very similar. Obviously, different time of the year, different geography, but I can see the similarities. This looks very impressive.
And really quite a small storm as well. Let's not forget how small this storm actually is, though. We obviously look at it real close up on the satellite imagery, but Jamaica isn't a huge island. Of course, it's quite large, but it's not usually, you know, the hurricane could almost fit inside it there. That's not usually what can happen.
Yeah, let me get a quick rough estimate of what just the cloud influences of the CDO, just for some context.
I know when you bring up Dorian as well, this is the same naming list as that one.
Yeah.
Funny enough, yeah. And the core on Melissa, it's exceptionally tight. Not a lot of external influence, not a lot of external banding. Almost, if you were to tell me that this was a long tracking storm heading through the Eastern Atlantic into the Western Atlantic, would have thought it would have been going for an annular type of look.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that word hasn't already been mentioned because it is trying to get away from those bands, and it is almost looking annular when you put it in isolation there.
Oh, don't.
Yep.
Oh, no.
I can see your argument for that, Nathan, but for it to be really annular, you would not have any other convective activity around it. We do see some other convection off the eastern and southern side. For a real true annular system, you wouldn't have any of that.
Well, I did say almost.
Yeah. As for the CDO influence, 150 kilometers. So, yeah, in terms of size, this is a very small storm.
The models are broken.
Oh dear.
So we can only show you up to the 5th of November, which is a bit disappointing. So, well, I don't know. It might please some people. That just means that we can't look at the silly range.
Good.
Where everyone gets very happy about the crazy scenarios later on down the line. Let's take a look then at what's going to go on around the world according to the GFS model, which, you know, I mean, it has its ups and downs. Let's not forget the GFS on this storm got it completely wrong. It forecasted the storm to move through the Dominican Republic and Haiti on numerous occasions. Then it took the storm along the coast of Haiti through that gap and up this way. Then it conceded that the storm would make landfall on the eastern tip of Jamaica and that moved northeastwards. And now it's here. The storm ended up here. What does the GFS predict now? Well, it actually goes much further towards the west, as I was alluding to earlier. So taking it pretty much in line with a lot of the other models, moving in to the southwest there, just east of Savannah-Lamar, and strengthens on the other side again back to major hurricane status into Cuba, and then on towards the northeast. Actually has quite a sharp turn to the extent where it really goes over the Turks and Caicos Islands now. West Caicos in particular, potentially getting major hurricane force conditions. Category 3 again briefly, and again there briefly, and again there. Still a Category 3 briefly. Bermuda getting away with it though, just on the edge of those storm force winds. So where does Melissa go after that? Well, it eventually loses the tropicality. I don't know, it may still even have it there. And then it's definitely dead. This time, instead of joining that big frontal system that's moving over northern Europe, it in fact just stays on the tail end of it there, and its remnants end up pestering the Canary Islands by the looks of things, what's left of it, which will be very, very little. Elsewhere in the Atlantic over that period, it doesn't look like anything's going to form. Maybe at the very end of that run there, day 10, 5th of November, I don't know if that's day 10, it is actually, that actually may be a little system they're trying to develop, so we'll see how that one goes, but that is quite far out. Anything more than 5 days is pretty far out. There's a Tropical Storm Sonia right now in the Eastern Pacific. Well, GFS still gives it the benefit of the doubt to strengthen a bit further, but I must say it's not looking very good on satellite at this point. Then it dies off very quickly. Nothing else in the Eastern Pacific in that 10-day period. Westpac, we're still keeping an eye on this area for a 10%, and this area for a system that we're now giving 30%, as some other models are starting to join aboard. There it is. I didn't even see that first one. I think it's that possibly. And then the second one on the right hand side there, affecting another US territory, Guam, moving on towards the northwest there, becoming a typhoon and a major typhoon. And it looks like the GFS is back to calling for this being a pretty powerful typhoon, like it did in last night's tropical weather bulletin when it had the storm down to 909 millibars. This is all within the 10-day period, so certainly a non-zero chance right now for the Philippines to have one of those late season powerful typhoons. So if you're watching there tonight or this morning, keep watching over the next few days. So this is now the newly formed tropical cyclone Mantha, which was just named. I still didn't manage to confirm that myself, but I'm sure Ethan was right with that. And that is going to continue off towards the northwest. Quite a broad system. Landfall there, well, actually delayed landfall very close to the coast before it actually moves inland, close to Visakhapatnam, and continues probably northwards. Now, it could be a bit of a rainmaker, this one, so keep watching that closely as well in India. And another system here that I think is just going to remain too broad. 40% chance, could it do it? We've been tracking this storm forever. It's been 92A. We've been tracking it probably, I don't even know how long it's been. Well over a week. And off it goes in the end. dying off over the Gujarat region of western India. Cyclone Chenj, this is what's left of it now. Hardly any semblance of a system. There was that other system there as well. Hardly anything left of that. Longer range. Anything forming in this area? No. Australian region. Anything forming here yet? No. It's going to get busier over the next few months. South Pacific. Nothing tropical. And let's take a look at some silly places like the South Atlantic. Any surprises installed over here? No. And the good old Mediterranean, which sometimes does produce tropical cyclones, even at this time of year. The answer there is a flat no as well. Let's go back, though, to Melissa and take a look at rainfall expectations from the GFS model out to 7 days. So already some of the rainfall has obviously made itself felt. So this is additional rainfall on top of anything that's already fallen. And now we're expecting that number to be around the 24-inch mark for central and western Jamaica, which is less than it was, but still a very high number. We're talking there, that is 600 millimeters of rainfall. And of course, as this tight chord storm and very heavy storm moves in, we could be seeing a lot of that rain falling in a very short amount of time, which causes the biggest issues, flash flooding, etc. Cuba as well, getting up towards 20 inches, 500 millimeters there as well. For the rest of Haiti, we're still looking at significant rainfall in a few spots too. 6 inches there, 150 millimeters. For parts of the Turks and Caicos, maybe getting up towards 3+ inches, and into the southeastern Bahamas, maybe even getting up towards 10 inches in a couple of spots there as well, 250 millimeters. In the GFS scenario, Bermuda, now I've got to try and find the place on the map. This is so difficult sometimes. I could not find Bermuda on the map. I imagine that it's going to get, it's somewhere around here. 1 to 2 inches is the best estimate at the moment, but if the storm does track over Bermuda, like some other models are saying, you could end up something like 8 inches, 400 millimeters. So that is the model roundup there around the world. And obviously, as usual, Melissa is the top story even on that. Alright team, have we had any further updates on anything whilst I've been going through all that? That sounds like a no. So the latest information then, if you're just wanting a roundup here, NOAA 2 are in the storm. They did 2 passes, getting a pressure in the low 930s on both of them, around 933, 934, and getting wind speeds of around 150 miles per hour flight level, which would correspond to actually only corresponds to about 130 to 140 mile per hour winds on the ground. But the 145 NHC went with corresponded to a dropsonde earlier, and some of the dropsonde data that we've been seeing in the northeastern eye wall is quite impressive. And it would not surprise me, everyone here, that overnight tonight this storm will reach borderline Category 5 status and maybe outright Category 5 status by first light tomorrow morning. That is my hunch at the minute, but it is just a hunch. This storm has already thrown a few surprises. Satellite appearance has been looking like a Category 5 all day, and if this storm was somewhere far away that recon planes wouldn't have been able or necessary to investigate, we easily would have called this a Category 5 storm. Just such is how science works, I guess. We just wouldn't have had the necessary data. But recon going in there and causing several surprises with the actual data in the storm, not just looking down from space, actually getting those readings which correspond to a mid-range Category 4. But it does appear that the tone is strengthening. And some commenters saying it's starting to look even more annular. which maybe. Anything else from the team right now? If not, we will go to the on this day section.
Only 2 observations I have, Nathan. You are correct. And Ethan did confirm it. Mantha has been named. They're running with 30 knots, 3 minutes sustained, pressure of 996. And local observations for Kingston, they have picked up 61 millimeters of rain so far today. And I'm pretty sure that number will continue to rise as the outer bands of Melissa continue to hit the southern part of Jamaica. And obviously, if the models do hold true, we're going to see those numbers rise into the hundreds, if not thousands of millimeters over the next 2 to 3 days.
Well, thousands is quite a lot. 1,000 is 40 inches, so we'll see. But we're talking hundreds, so it's going to be a very dangerous storm in terms of the rainfall, flooding, landslide impacts, obviously, with the terrain involved. All right, then, thanks to the team. Let's just reiterate the warnings that are in effect here. A hurricane warning for Jamaica and the Cuban provinces of Granma, Santiago de Cuba, Guantanamo, and Holguin. Hurricane watch for the southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border with the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince. Tropical storm warning for southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border with the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince as well, and the Cuban province of Las Tunas. So winds are near 145 miles per hour, hurricane force winds extending out 30 miles, minimum estimated pressure 933 millibars. Still an extremely dangerous storm and still expected to become a Category 5 during the course of Monday. Let's take a look at what happened on this day around the world then. It was Hurricane Mitch, another big storm in this region, and extremely powerful. It was just past its peak by this point, but was still a Category 5 on October 27th, 1998. We also had Tropical Storm Babs, which was dying out near Taiwan, and an unnumbered, undesignated tropical depression in the Bay of Bengal. Really a similar setup to today, isn't it, actually? But Mitch was
another Cat 5.
An absolute beast. Yeah. What was another Cat 5?
Babs was.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Just about. Back to today then. The next name in the Atlantic is Nestor. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Tico. And in the Central Pacific, it's Lala. We'll be moving over to our automated stream after this. It will redirect you automatically where you can take a look at the very latest on Melissa throughout the night tonight. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Kalmegi, and you can see this is out of date now. The North Indian Ocean's next name is Senya. 89 storms so far in 2025, just 3 away from the annual average now. The Australian region's next name is Fina, Southwest Indian Ocean, Dudsai, and the South Pacific, Ermil. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more updates throughout the course of Monday. Stay tuned.